Lying in our life is a familiar phenomenon, but we lie so much that you can't tell us briefly about it. In the sense of a lot of time, but talking about it, a little. Probably, we think that everyone is lying and we want to hope that at least someone is not lying. But this is not possible, since we transfer false information to each other without checking it. The announcer tells a lie, not knowing the veracity of this information. And who will check it? Information is a flight of thought. Why should I check your flights when my thoughts are closer and more pleasant to me? Now, in order to understand what will be discussed, a little excursion into the domain of it. I remind you that it is both the supermind and God, and the absolute, or the information field. It is your right, choice. The world is reasonable, and what, or who you consider to be the supermind, is your choice. When the supermind offered itself to call it, then already, for a reasonable person, it is clear how it identifies itself. Although only one thing is clear, that it is not clear for science and contradictory for religion. But this can be understood only if you understand that the mind and the rational structure of the world are one whole. The concept of it is multifaceted, and is not personified, like the concept of God or Christ or Buddha, Krishna, and other outstanding personalities. There are many of them, and these are different names, of one phenomenon. As I said in the previous video, lies in our lives. True, this is what we believe in. Try to understand and understand this. If you believe that water does not drain from a round surface, then a bucket of water and the ball will not help you. Do you see that the water does not stick to the ball? But do not believe, but believe in what you do not see. Science said but didn't show. And this is your choice. They will lie to you as long as you believe. Choose not to believe, and they will stop lying to you. Consider one of the fundamental laws of the reasonable world. Fundamental because it is the foundation on which everything rests. Any theory that does not have a reliable foundation can be called scientific, because it is based on fiction, hypothesis. You cannot say there is, or exists, on indirect grounds. Einstein's time for wild fantasy is over. He was interesting to me at the age of 14, when they carried me into the world of hypotheses, and into space, where everything comes true. But today these fantasies are not interesting, because I can turn them on, but I can turn them off. Fantasies are not rational and only generate more fantasies. Physics had to believe in itself when any fiction is presented as a plan. Big Bang, accidental and beyond analysis. And honest ones confirm it, and not honest ones deny it. And this is called the right to choose. Fiction cannot be refuted, nor can it be proven. It is impossible to prove the existence of it, but the existence of Alpha Centauri, can you? Is this confirmed by the plurality of theories about the origin of the world? A lot, it means nothing. There are no two truths, and even more so many. The world I'm telling you about, where the information lies in the public domain, like on the internet, which is given to us in order to understand how the reasonable world works, and not the fantastic, where is fiction higher than reason. Information is complex and diverse, but only at first glance, and if you think about it rationally, that is, intelligently, without fantasizing, that is, without lying. Then everything falls into place. The world is many times smarter than us. Why lie and invent extraterrestrial civilizations? First, we must honestly say, we are shaved monkeys with a violent, cosmic fantasy. We can compare who has more money, but we cannot compare our brain with the brain of an elephant. So we can't, or don't we want to? And this is also the right of our choice. The time of the material world has already passed. And you don't have to lie to keep him. So prepare your brain for the most unexpected in order to learn to understand and not believe. All my life I believed in the Communist Party, and that we will build our beautiful, but tomorrow. And we will fulfill what the party has outlined at its congresses. And whoever speaks more steals more. But you just believe more, more fool. Believe less, less fool. Keep your brain sane, without scientific hypotheses and religious dogmas. I have already said that the brain must always be controlled. Otherwise, he runs away into space and brings from there all sorts of things, most often unnecessary in life. Some kind of black holes, sulfuric seas, and twinkling stars, as well as that the brain grows by several thousand neurons. And as the brain researcher Professor Tatyana Chernigovskaya said, it is not known what he can do. And everything is simple. In space, the brain is free. And freedom, according to the same famous traveler, Gennady Sundakov, freedom is a peg, a rope, and a yoke. That is, a brain released into space without a leash can bring with it something that is not probable. And admiring where your brain picked up this nonsense is simply not reasonable. Therefore, it is possible to study space for hundreds of thousands of years without understanding how the world works, because it is necessary to understand the difference between constructed and invented, and rearranging invented and constructed is to crush water in a mortar. It is not possible for us to correct the brain convolutions. We did not do them, but to lie or scientifically, to express hypotheses, we will always. And this is also the right of our choice. Imagine that it knows the future. I say imagine, because it is rather difficult to understand, but thanks to imagination, can we at least imagine? Sometimes in our reasoning, there is an understanding that time is not uniform. But is thinking limited to dogmas or fiction? Therefore, ending my thought, say, for example, how much science has to discover, realizing that only created things can be discovered. Religions don't need to open anything, everything is open there. Open the right page in the Bible and read it. Brains are resting. And this is also the right to choose. Conquering space, we do not think that we are landing on parachutes for 50 years. They sat on the moon a long time ago, but on the ground, can't we? But choosing what to believe in and whom to believe is your choice. It is necessary to understand that science goes its own way. And on this path, he creates difficulties and problems for himself, but often invents them, then refutes the invented, inventing new ones. Science fantasizes, and who gets in the way of fantasies? Science can surprise, but also make laugh. And so, knowing the future, it always warns us about the presence of any obstacles or troubles in the future. Sending a thought, don't drive today. Or, postpone your trip or flight. Scientists can't answer this. Can they fantasize to justify the answer in the form of intuition, although they cannot explain where it evolved from? Many had to deal with this. To warn your creation about troubles through thoughts, this is reasonable and rational. Gadgets are in our heads. And this is also your right to choose. I looked on the internet yesterday and realized that for us, the right to choose is mainly expressed in the right to vote. Or choose, buy black shoes, or red. You can influence something with such a choice, but the mechanisms of influence are limited. We can choose someone, but we cannot influence his decisions, because this is his right to choose what to do. And this right is given from above. To listen to how you explain to your inner voice, or not. Is this also your choice? To understand what perfection is like our brain, only the supermind can create. And this is also your choice. Science of cosmology is captivated by its fantasies, but is this its choice? The main thing is, how does it know, if it warns, about the upcoming event? Later, it will become clear. Does it not interfere with the right to choose? Warn, please. And we decide ourselves. Exceeded the speed, and crashed into a pole, brains on the asphalt. This is your choice. If you have a new, unexpected thought now, try not to kill her, refutation or proof, but let her mature, grow, and get stronger. Thoughts are your own, or someone else's. This is your choice. In a reasonable world, as opposed to a random, scientific one, you don't need to prove anything. You just need to understand. It, sending me a thought, about what I see, more than half, is not reality. Not even going to prove it to me. Did I understand this, or didn't I? It is my choice to understand what is real and what is not real. I explain why, it does not interfere. If it knows the future, and it is, then the only, I emphasize, the only opportunity to change the future is to give us the right to choose, that is, to participate directly in it, in the future. It's like in football, it wouldn't be interesting to watch the match if you know the score in advance. You already know the winner and how many will be scored, but when the player is free to choose, to pass, to make a feint, or to hit the ball, then the intrigue remains. But the intrigue is not the result, knowledge of the result, but participation in the game itself, and the right to choose. Let's not touch on the concept of time for now, because your brain is not ready for a non-scientific understanding of time. When it tells me something, answering my question, it always gives time to reach me, then what does it tell me about? And knowing my thoughts, does he move on to the next information, only if I understand what was said correctly? Do not rush to understand everything. If I understood at 70, why don't you wait until 90? If you do not understand what I am explaining to you, try to understand, and do not look for sources of information. They simply do not exist. Remember, you can get smarter only by forming your thoughts. Other people's thoughts are only information, and more often than not they are slime. When it told me that I was honored with this contact, for honesty, then choose to lie to me or not to lie. For me, it is no longer possible. This choice is already predetermined. If I cannot lie, then I believe in a lie, the same as lying. It means that under no circumstances will it interfere with our choice. This is good, since we ourselves participate in the creation of the future, or do we somehow influence it? On the other hand, it does not interfere with our decisions. So, if we have made a decision, to make powder, and from it to make milk, and add all sorts of rubbish there, as I think, and very important and useful supplements, according to science, so it will be. It does not interfere with what we eat, and how we cook, from what we cook. But he tells us, think. What do you eat? And the most interesting thing that tells everyone. But do we choose what we were prompted? Strange choice between brains, and we were told. Our brain is multifunctional, but does it think about what we offer it or fantasizes when there is no work? It created a cow, not a chemical milk plant. And you already decide what to use, cow's milk, or factory milk. And this, too, is our right to choose. But the horror is that we can go to the cemetery with a smart look and scientific justification. We don't know the future, and it knows. But it will not tell us that it would not be violated. This is the right to choose, but it will warn you. Recently I read information that the number of freaks has doubled in recent years. And if with a change in nutrition, our brain changes? If we eat all sorts of rubbish, and rely on medicine and pills? And we ourselves proclaim that profit is the most important thing in the development of the state, the individual? Medicine, in our opinion, flies to us from Mars, and for a smile and thanks, heals us? That doctors are angels, they instill in us from childhood. Corporations poison us for profit, but medicine is the same business. With reservations, but also making money. We ourselves proclaimed that the richer we are, the more interesting and fulfilling life is. We have where not to turn, some advice, how to get rich. This determines not only our actions, but also our thinking. We poison ourselves, and then, we are surprised. Scientists also sit in corporations and watch, so that we don't die, right away. Or quickly, they didn't. To die quickly is a crime, and to die slowly is creativity. Is a negative result also a result? People work in corporations, and they are their home. And this is also the right to choose. Science cares for us, thinks about our health. Is it okay that corporations won't poison us a lot? Medicine on guard, our health. Ministry of Health warns. The right to choose is a gift from God, and science is powerless to deprive us of it. Does science also receive money for a reason? They will explain to you that in small doses it is even useful, immunity increases. Is it okay that science does not yet know how much, in these small doses? There are a lot of us. No one is going to poison us. And who thinks so, let him prove it. While the dose is being determined, are you looking and leveling up? What a weird two-headed calf. Will scientists explain to you that this is not a mutation, but an evolution? But where? The monkey itself. And if in him, in the brain, there are changes associated with our choice, which we cannot influence. We know that chemistry is harmful. But still we continue to consume. What amazing brain do we have? Used to be dumb. All that he needed was natural. And now, we give him the information that the pills will cure everything. And our brains make us believe that herbal pills are more beneficial than the herb itself. Doesn't matter what you eat. The most important thing is that the pills are more expensive. Only in them is salvation. Cheap pills do not cure, but cripple. This means that our brain also mutates if it believes in it. Gender is a mutation in our brains. Sexual characteristics, is this the difference between the sexes? And does marriages between same sex, remove the difference, level the difference? We are changing, so our brain will also change. And will we have a third hand, or a second head? We do not know. Can science explain this, by evolution? Who does not know where evolution is leading, and when to end? Is the concept of evolution illusory? Take the best. And what does the best mean, and forgive me, from whom to take? With God. If you consider him the best? But his actions suggest otherwise. Or do you think that he will prove to you his existence? I can't even call it a pathology. Am I going to prove to you that I am communicating with it? They told me, I gave you this information. This is your choice. But back to evolution, taking bribes with the third hand is very convenient and reasonable. And the many-sided Shiva is the pinnacle of evolution. We only have two hands and we can't keep track of them. And two heads, just fine. We have reached the pinnacle of cynicism, to know that it is harmful. And continue to do it. Eat harmful, buy unnecessary, believe in what you hear, and take everything that is not right. The horror is that it cannot break, unlike us, its laws. That is, if we decided to eat all sorts of nasty things and gradually mutate, moving to the cemetery? Is this our choice? If we want to go to the grave ahead of time, will it not interfere? You know that? Then why don't you? The problem of the brain for us is, what does it give out, and not neurons with synapses? In the morning I woke up thinking, what if we mutate so that all organs will swap places? The main species, to preserve the genes of the monkey, so as not to forget the origin? Of course, today I understand that a person cannot be left unattended. He turned away a little, and he already takes some nasty stuff in his mouth, but tell me that it is expensive and useful, nothing can stop him. By the level of development, we are children. We not only believe in scientific fairy tales, but also make them, and therefore, we believe. The right to choose is ingenious, and the only reasonable one. One day I listen, on the news, how did a young guy stab his girlfriend? Emotions don't give a damn about what he had in life, fatherlessness, or poverty, or was he bullied by the boys at school. This is for psychologists. It is important for me to know whether it warned, or not. I'm hearing about the murder, the host's tongue is suspended normally, is it threshing great? And where did the school look, and where did my mother and other public organizations go? Then I heard a friend say, and she said before going to him, he will kill me. Praise to the Creator. Now, this is important to me. Not only did he warn her through the thought, but even specifically said, he will kill you. Of course, she could have chosen a different path, using her right to choose. It's a pity, girl. One woman said, I am riding a bicycle, through a summer cottage village, and before reaching one intersection, I suddenly wanted oranges, so much so that I decide to turn around and drop into a store. I eat them with such pleasure, is there nothing tastier? I drive up to an intersection, and there are two corpses, someone shot from the window of the dacha. Why, it saved her life, but that girl, no. I always liked it when they asked me, Siriaga, do you have money? And I answered, no. And it is necessary? And I answered, no, don't you? And no one has ever called me, to profit or steal something. If someone has and I don't, so I don't need it. Time passes, and I really didn't need anything. Wanting nothing is also the right to choose. It's very simple, and therefore brilliant. It restricts someone, and for someone it increases this right, but never deprives. In the following explanation, the most important law of it. Prepare your brain for a hurricane? Or don't you cook? This is your choice. And I'm a little clever. Information can be reasonable and not intelligent. For example, the Egyptian pyramids are focused on the constellation Sirius. But why? Nobody knows this. Just in case, and I'm building a toilet in my garden, will I direct it to something that will help my intestines? Yes, the same, Sirius. And this, too, is the right of my choice. Simple and ingenious. Good luck to all.